Is there a woeful result? Is there a circumstance where a convict would promptly pick capital punishment over life confinement? Well, as weird as it sounds, there are correctional facilities in this world that make the death penalty and open-minded sentence prisons loaded up with unspeakable nefariousness that would make your stomach turn. And in this video, I will show you 10 of the most ridiculously horrendous. So take a full breath since things will get massive. Number 10. Dim Dolphin Prison. Russia. Ask any Russian you know, and they'll tell you that life in any Russian prison is unbelievably outrageous. Yet this high-security dull dolphin prison renames that quality arranged on the Kazakhstan line. Dim Dolphin is perhaps of Russia's most settled prison, and it got its name from the model at the front of the construction, which the prisoners manufactured themselves. That is uncommon, because Dim Dolphin isn't precisely referred to for its chance, actually the most ideal way to move away from this prison is by kicking the can. That is the fate of every single detainee. Since only prisoners with life sentences are delivered off Dull Dolphin, the prison houses around 700 detainees, who together have a murder count of around 3,500 shared. Likewise, that is something like 5 losses for every prisoner. Anyway, murder isn't the most clearly horrible skill on their resume. Dull Dolphin also houses savages, assault guilty parties of the most incredibly terrible kind, insane individuals, dread-based oppressors, and pedophiles. 2 detainees are constrained to share wildly created 50-square-foot cells that are gotten behind 3 game plans of steel doorways. These cells are under 24-hour surveillance, and guardians get making the rounds as expected. The prisoners hardly any time leave their cells bent around the midsection and blindfolded, so they can't anyway. When they do, they're blindfolded and made to walk bowed at the midriff. This way they never have a sensation of their natural variables. There is no prison yard and no cafeteria, as prisoners are constrained to eat only suppers of soup and bread in their messy cells. If perdition was a prison, Dull Dolphin would be solid areas for a Barrios, El Salvador. Now, what could be more horrendous than condemnation? I'm blissful you requested that license me familiarize you with Ciudad, the most dangerous prison in El Salvador. The clarification it is all so perilous is because it houses 2 of the world's most renowned packs, the MS-13 and the Barrio 18. Gathering downfall regularly comes out of nowhere in case a prisoner isn't a hoodlum, and that is the explanation from 2004 to 2015. Just hoodlums were delivered off this hellhole anyway. A portion of the time being a criminal isn't adequate, and as a general rule they are the least of your nervousness, considering the way that the everyday environments are so horrible. The prison is pressed so much that getting essential things like food to eat or a spot to lay your head could without a doubt change into a fight to the passing. With anyone testing your case, the prison's representing problem and viciousness is certifiable to the point that prison screens are scared by entering the prison, and the result. The entire prison structure is constrained by the criminal's number 8 Petak Island prison, Russia. It is known as the Alcatraz of Russia for a clarification, and that reason would place the sensation of fear toward Mother Russia into the center of Satan Fire Island, the island of the denounced sitting in isolation on the gigantic Nosovero Lake. This minute island prison houses 193 prisoners, for the most part on life sentences. Clearly, the detainees are commonly the most ridiculously horrendous of the most over-the-top horrendous. They're looking for whatever might be used as a weapon or a technique for get-out, and all of them are saved in a little 2-man cell for 23 hours. Reliably break is unbelievable considering the way that prisoners are not even allowed out of their phone for any reason. The 1 hour they are allowed out of lockdown is spent excess in a nook that they can hardly speed in any case. The cherry on this terrible reality, what fuels this prison, then Dim Dolphin, is the shortfall of fundamental sanitization workplaces. There could be no genuine lavatories and no genuine bathrooms. Prisoners do their business in a steel holder and they find lay on feeble beds. Some have looked at the regular conditions of Bedok Island prison to that of a zoo in winter. That is because the island is surrounded by freezing waters that add to the breaking the spirit of their prisoners. Number 7, Bang Kwang Prison, Bangkok, Thailand. Bangkok Prison is conceivably of the most over-the-top horrendous prison on earth. For an undeniable clarification, a significant parcel of its detainees were once tourists. Since everyone's all over them, and considering the way that the prison office is so pressed considering an organization and crackdown on drug managing, these chargeable explorers need to hold on to up incomparable space with prisoners hanging tight for the death penalty, and the offenses that could boot you into Bangkok are commonly very minor, examining some unsatisfactory book, staying in social occasions of 5 or regardless. Eating a sandwich straightforwardly could get you a one-way pass to Bangkok. Life in Bangkok is past brutal for prisoners. In the underlying 3 months of their sentence, new detainees are supposed to wear iron chains to fuel what is happening. The food they're served is habitually plagued with disgusting parasites, and drinking water is an absolute luxury. Yet it doesn't end there. Don't figure you can basically avoid Bangkok by being a useful citizen. Traveler 2, or quite a while ago, an Englishman was thrown into jail when a Thai pack bounced him, and regardless of the way that he lost an eye, got through injuries he really expected to do, time in Bangkok for fighting back. Number 6, Gautama Central Prison. Rwanda stuffing is a common element with most confinement offices on this summary. However, there is no prison that has it anyway horrendous as Gitarama's Central Prison in Rwanda. God is, by all accounts, horrible. In an office affected to keep somewhat more than 1,300 prisoners, 8,000 prisoners have been constrained to share the space. A significant part of the time finding a spot to laze on the ground is a luxury. A huge number are constrained to stand up the whole day or wrangle with individuals who have ensured pieces of the ground and aversion. The ground in Banter is some piece of fine land. It is sticky, and generally speaking, stacked up with unrefined dung. Clearly this has provoked more again, assume complex issues. An immense number have completely kicked the pale from disease and suffocation, and watcher to mistakenly hurt your foot. Gangrene would set in, and you would either have to cut it yourself, risk end, or watch it tumble from your body, yet it decays. Than that, there have been a couple of examples of detainees eating up one another out of yearning, and the viciousness may be more horrendous than I just communicated because there is practically no documentation on the activities that happen behind these prison bars, and prison watches have been molded to acknowledge that the prisoners in their charge are subhuman. Last year, 2,000 people passed on in Rwandan prisons. A stunning bigger piece of those passings happened inside the walls of Gitarama's Central Prison. Number 5, Committee Most Prominent Security Prison, Kenya. What urges this prison rapidly stand separated from the rest is that it is home to the absolute most horrible of the most over-the-top terrible, fundamental 1954, by its English colonizers. The prison was planned by an old-style trailblazer structure to house miscreants during a profoundly delicate circumstance articulated in October 1952. Today, it really has its one-of-a-kind framework, and it has gotten fundamentally more terrible than it was the larger section 100 years back. On one hand, stuffed a prison should house 1,200 prisoners, as practically 30 detainees pressed inside it. Of course, this overpopulation has duplicated serious viral contaminations like HIV and helps syphilis, tuberculosis, and a lot of sicknesses that usually should be dealt with. Substantially more terrifying is the constant pain and degradation that torture the prison structure, since the prison is the public power's one dumping ground for political dissidents. An enormous piece of the general population is ignorant. This consequently has provoked a telephone for mentioning inside the prison structure, where scores of prisoners cheat guiltless Kenyan inhabitants of their money outside the prison walls, leading Group of legal administrators' most noteworthy security prison is a cesspool of disturbance. And basically, the savviest, the boldest, and the most hard-hearted can scrape by behind its walls. Number 4, Goldani Prison, Georgia. They say the prison is better, they say the viciousness has stopped anyway. That doesn't eliminate the startling practice of Goldani Prison. In 2012, a video was spilled by a 35-year-old past prison watch turned source who shot the loathings that prisoners go through in view of various heavenly creatures. The video is excessively practical to try and consider showing up here anyway. I can see what they did and had been achieving for a seriously prolonged stretch of time to prisoners reliably unpredictable detainees were routinely sodomized with brush handles, and one of such was featured in the accounts. They were much of the time beaten, choked out, their bones purposely broken, consumed, all in light of the horrible heavenly creatures it was directed torture in the 21st century. A past prisoner would survey, they isolates my fingernails, hurt my skull, broke my leg bones, ribs, nose, and teeth. I'm 43 years old. Anyway, I am by all accounts an older individual. I regularly tumble down while I'm walking today. They say the prisons are fine, what's more, that the torture has been halted anyway. I question, you would have to ensure that for yourself. Number 3, Mendoza Prison, Argentina. The principal 90 most dangerous convicts in Argentina are undeniably held in Construction 5 of Mendoza Prison. That part is unsafe to the point that no god has the balls to enter that part, and they habitually leave the prisoners' feasts at predestined spots around the entrance that could sound deviously cool to some. Anyway, don't be deceived. Clearly, the prison has a serious blockage issue. 1,600 detainees share an office that was planned for only 600. There are no beds, and prisoners are constrained to lay on the floor, where they are much of the time presented to unpredictable, uncommon, and ordinary torture. Anyway, it doesn't end there. Lavatories are non-existent, as prisoners are constrained to poo in plastic packs and pee in bottles. There is a demanding sewer of rubbish, human waste, and slime going through the sections, and conditions have become so unpleasant that there are reports that prisoners, from a genuine perspective, sewed their mouths shut in battle, mentioning better everyday conditions. Except it really weakens. Their food is ooze, and individuals who aren't strong, fast, or splendid enough oftentimes go hungry and pass on under what the experts have made a penchant for calling clandestine circumstances. Number 2. The Diyarbakir Prison, Turkey. The Diyarbakir Prison was at the point of convergence of the most unsafe framework in Turkey. In the 1980s and 90s, extraordinary numerous Kurdish individuals experienced dreadful kinds of torture, and around then, it was seen as the most incredibly, frightfully horrible prison in the world. These days, second, generally terrible. Anyway, nothing has additionally evolved as a have any meaning of truth you could battle that conditions have disintegrated, considering the way that in comparable prison, where the sludges of society are being housed, kids are similarly gotten inside, and the torture that these detainees are presented to goes from genuine torture to mental assault. On the more real savage side of things, detainees are beaten, dismissed, harmed, constrained to eat feces, and by their genitalia. On the more mental, dehumanizing side of things comparable, prisoners are constrained to recognize the prison boss canine, participate in unpredictable fake executions that may or couldn't anytime happen, and constrained to wash in the sewers to precisely show you the manner by which mad the situation is. Prisoners routinely go on dry, fast battling prison conditions, and that is just a hint of something larger regularly than not. These prisoners fundamentally fail horrendously. From starvation, every one of the more actually 4 prisoners set their bodies on fire, and later on, a prisoner set his telephone burning before adjusting himself in Resistance No. 1 Camp 22, North Korea. Camp 22 isn't just a single prison office. It is a progression of character prison camps containing up to 200 prisoners, and reached out across the length of North Korea. the 2 or 3 extremely lucky overcomers of lichen conditions in the camp, to the monsters committed against the Jews during the Holocaust starvation isn't an oddity. It is every prisoner's reality. Prisoners are dealt with a refuse of cornmeal and cabbage, reliably for the term of their world, and to make an effort not to shade of yearning prisoners need to improve their eating routine with rodents and bugs. Rodents ended up being an especially crucial piece of their eating schedule. That rodents from a genuine perspective went cleared out. If you have a lot of knowledge of how rodents copy, you'll understand that. That is imperative, no question. On ordinary 20 to 25% of the prison people pass on every year. When detainees aren't passing on from absence of sound food, the prison screens make their lives into a diverting piece of loathsomeness. Everyone is fair game to the prison. Divine creatures young women brought into the world in the camp are commonly dealt with to canines to set them up to be more horrendous. Detainees are abused as tension assistants for the heavenly creatures, and if they try to get away from everyone in their family, even those uninformed about their takeoff attempt will be tortured. Pregnancy is in like manner rigidly no. Those got pregnant are habitually joined to a tree, the hatchling cut from their stomach, and subsequently they are shot. Failing miserably in Camp 22 is the best thing that can happen to you. Living at any rate suggests endless hopelessness.